There you are. We did it. We were really confused about how to do the live, and we've done it, so I'm really happy. Welcome.
Joining. I see lots of names popping up.
When we came to what this really is about, it's about consciousness, and it's about connection, and it's about the quality of connection that we can find within ourselves in relation to nature and in relation to each other. Yeah, and I just wanted to ask you a question, Vivi, about the eros and the desire for merging in nature and within every living being and within the cells, and how this comes down to that subatomic level.
After uni that I got into quantum physics, and it was then when I started having an understanding that I wasn't separate in this body in many ways, and that was the beginning of a first shift. Because at the core of life, in everything that I have come to understand now, is relationship, right? There's something in matter, in the way consciousness operates, that, I don't know, a proton meets an electron meets a neutron, and they form an atom in relationship with each other, and then another atom meets another atom and wants to relate together until they form a molecule. But it's all because of relationship, and they are no longer the same afterwards, right? The relationship impacts the individuals in some way, and through that life is created.
And that quote, we exist in a relational field, to be in relationship is the very nature of existence. This retreat for me is an experience of that, of how that could be, of how it could be for us to come together in circle, in brother and sisterhood, and explore this shift in consciousness, explore this deeper connection, this quality of connection, this eros, as you talk about, with ourselves, with nature.
So everything that we are now mentioning in regards to the offerings and the gifts that we bring, they're all pieces in many ways that will really alter you into another way of understanding life.
And there's really something about the authentic relating work that you bring, where you talked about it with regards to saying that when we were talking about our stories and why we're here, and we got very in our heads, and this authentic relating is about dropping from the head into the body, into the heart, and into complete presence with another. So it's like the expectations on how we want to show up, or I need to be a certain way, that all drops, and we just return to this present moment. This is how I am, and this is how I'm feeling, this is how my body's feeling.
I almost want to just give it a try instead of talking about it, but then I think there are both two elements about that. But let's drop in for a minute or two just to practice. So instead of being in my head and thinking about what I should be doing right now, I just want to connect with my body, and I notice a lot of heat. It feels spicy where I am, and I look at your laugh and your beautiful face, and it's such it feels turning on, not sexually, but this feeling of burning.
It's something that I just want to bring to this conversation, because it is that we are all one and we're all in connection, and I really felt for a moment in my body what you were feeling, but it's also some of the work that perhaps we'll be going into is around creating healthy boundaries between each other as well. So I just wanted to bring that up in myself. That was what was arising there, of learning how to do that.
Can I practice that to not lose connection with myself as I'm so with you, that I pick up on where our boundaries are, right? And it becomes more of an interactive rather than but I said, or you said before, the boundaries are that's fine and that's important, but there's also this, how can we weave boundaries into our intimacy, our connection? Erotic ecology,
and this orgasmic life thing, the experience that you had when you were blindfolded, and how that assisted your awakening as well, because this is something that we're going to go into in the retreat, so it'd be great to touch into the energy of this, the feeling of this too.
I had this experience of going deeper into earth, and there was, you mentioned the word eros in many ways, everything that I shared before around the relationship, and like that in itself for me is eros. And I wanted to find more of that with nature. It's like, how can I, like, you know, the spark of like, how can I deeper relate, like in a more intimate way?
Why is it that we're really here? What is it that our soul wants to express? And coming together in a way that, you know, indigenous cultures do, to heal on a collective level and not go off on our own and try and figure it out in this old school individualistic way, but to come together as brother and sisters and bring together, weave these practices and really look at ourselves as well and do that shadow work.
I really see that we have all come here with a piece to the whole, like we're all pieces of fractals of a bigger picture, a bigger whole, and we all have our own unique gift codes, and really want to bring an embodiment practice where you know, you mentioned the field before. You tap into the field and actually let your body tell, let your intuition tell you more about your purpose and your gifts instead of figuring things out with the head. And that is really cool. So we do a little bit of that too, all the other yumminess.
Yeah, and it's like, how can we, once we've learned how to really clear our field and express ourselves and process our emotions, for me at least, my past month has been about this. It's been about releasing that which isn't serving me, and then coming into a deeper intuition where I'm like moving through every day, being able to listen more deeply to myself, and things are just more easeful in that space. Like I just feel like I'm in flow, if that makes sense. And I'm no longer in this space of worrying. Really going to bring practices to align ourselves to our intuition so that we can move through life with a sense of deeper knowing, and it's going to be okay. We're okay. When we're in the heart, when we're operating from this place, things are just more easeful, more beautiful. The work that I really want to bring is around wholeness and around how it is that we can touch into wholeness within ourselves. So I'll be bringing some energetic practices such as qigong. Movements and meditations and expressions are for us to cultivate and clear the life force energy and bring the elements within us and our organs that are associated with those elements into balance.
When I started working with the map, the cross, and I embodied the dark masculine, the power of that archetype, like stepped into the power of fully claiming what my body desired, what I wanted in absolute clarity and presence. That was one of the most healing things that I could have ever done for this victim, you know, state of mine, to like actually experience what that level of power is like accessible to me.
Sort of numbing ourselves consistently with distractions, be it Instagram or be it, you know, drugs or alcohol or sex or shopping or whatever it is, external distractions. So for me, like, if we can begin to create a culture, which is what this retreat very much is going to be about for me, of being able to really connect in and open up to that which wants to be expressed within us, the feelings, the emotions, we can start to connect to that rawness, that innate power that we have within us. So those shadow elements of like anger that we're not supposed to express in our society, this is something within the workshops I've been holding that we really go into, and we really allow space for it to be healthily processed and released. And, you know, we know that when we store these emotions in our body, it can cause depression, it can cause even diseases in the worst case. So we're also going to be creating spaces for us to really go into that, like into the soil, into the dirt, into that animalistic, and allow those emotions to be present, but in a really safe, beautiful container. And where this work comes from for me is shamanic ceremony, and being in ceremonies where you're in so much darkness, both externally and within. And it is just okay to be, you know, howling and releasing and purging and just going through all of your stuff. And then by doing that, you're clearing it, you're processing it, and you're being real with it, with yourself, and in community. It's a very powerful thing. Seja activism, this really came up for us today. And after we had our call this morning, I went out and I just danced. I had a headache. I had a bit of a caffeine thing the past couple of weeks, and I just stopped drinking coffee and I had a headache. and I just danced and just drank water and danced, and I connected with nature, and it was just so beautiful. And it really brought me into an embodiment of what we were talking about around pleasure activism. Do you want to just go into this a little bit, Vivi, because you said a really beautiful explanation earlier about it?
Did
You
I?
have it.
Oh, God. You know, coming back to what Eros is and what life is, right? It's sort of, there's a sexiness, there's, yeah, we like, the message is for me definitely so clear. We are not meant to struggle here. It's not, we're not meant to struggle. Wow, could this whole retreat kind of like be an initiation for people into stepping out of struggle? There's a lot of energy I feel in my body, and my whole spine, everything goes like zzz. And I think that's the biggest piece, really, of like, it sums up so much of what we have been talking about.